Good evening and welcome to Hudson Valley Prepping and Survival. And with us tonight, he needs no introduction, our good buddy, NYPrepper. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight, Greg. It's great to see you again, my friend. How's everything going, bro? How you doing?
It's going good. Thanks for asking. Hope everything's going well with you.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we've been busy. We've been busy. Springtime, nonstop action, man. Sports with the
Yeah.
kids and the YouTube channel and now the Patreon channel. It's nonstop for us. So
Oh yeah,
uh,
I'm sure.
I and with the way the world is going, I know that. Do you sleep, my friend? Do you sleep at all? Um, it's
I try, yeah.
constant, and you're keeping track of things that are happening all the way across the world. So the time zones are kind of flipped.
Right.
So I guess that's why I bring up that question. You seem to be the night owl now, and
Yeah.
that's when everything's going on over on that side of the world. So you're
Yeah,
you're
that's
there
true.
taking it in real time and kind of dispensing it out to the people. This stuff is all swept under the rug by the mainstream media, bro.
Oh
And
yeah.
I got to say thank you for bringing a lot of it to our attention. Otherwise, honestly, I wouldn't hear about any of this stuff if it wasn't for you and your YouTube channel, man. Honestly.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah, it's true. The mainstream media, they're not going to report on probably half of the stuff that I report on. So,
Yeah.
it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. They have a agenda and they have to make money too, so they got to focus on the big stories, and
You gotta be
that's
real
that's what
loud in
gets.
the headlines about it. Like,
Yeah.
oh, what did thing happen? You're like, I don't know, man. Shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Did thing happen?
And you click and they're like, no, it didn't. But it could have, what if it did? Speculative journalism is what it is.
So I guess the elephant in the room is where do you see things actually going over there in Ukraine? I mean, it seems like the whole area is just a tinderbox right now between Israel and Palestine and Ukraine. It just seems like the whole thing is going to collapse into one big shitstorm, man. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on it?
But wait, before you answer that, I was basically going to ask you the same question. So rather than like kind of beat around it and do it twice, I want to like kind of just add something to what Mike just asked.
Okay.
Uh, to be upfront, I don't on purpose. I do it on purpose. I don't watch other preppers channels. It's not because I don't like you guys or I don't respect you guys. It's I don't ever want to like be influenced or ever be
Mm,
alleged to have like copied someone or done something somebody else did. So
Right.
I stay in my creative lane in that regard. So, but what I know from Mike is that you are like literally the expert on the Ukraine Russia conflict. But also, I assume that you are deep in the trenches of the Israel-Palestine
Right.
conflict as well. So,
Yep.
adding to what Mike said, is what is like what's in the gray areas that's gonna like finish both these stories out? Like, what's your predictions about how this will all play out? Not based on loud headlines, but instead like actual information and intel. Like we're all told one thing, a thing.
yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's only going to escalate. I don't see any like peace anywhere, either in the Middle East or in Ukraine. I don't see any, uh, miraculous like peace treaty that's just going to end everything. It's only going to get worse and worse. And if there is a peace treaty, then I would be like on very high alert if that actually does pass, either in the Middle East or in Ukraine, because that would basically just um, give both sides time to reconstitute their forces, and then one side is just going to launch a surprise attack when the other side is not expecting it. It's just the tension in that part of the world, in the both areas, Israel and Eastern Europe. It's something that's been ongoing for decades and centuries, and you're not going to have any peace treaty that's going to solve that in the long term. It's just impossible. It's like you know, a wolf signing a peace treaty with a deer. You know, it may last a little bit,
Yeah,
you know, but
until you get
eventually, you know,
hungry.
right,
What,
exactly. So it's just total opposite countries, you know, Russia and Ukraine, you know, it's a grudge match between, you know, the old communist forces in Russia that want to hold on to power and maintain that sort of, you know, USSR semblance of, you know, Russia, and then you have NATO and the ex uh, communist countries and like the Warsaw Pact countries, which want nothing to do with, you know, communism. And that's never gonna change. It's always gonna be that way, unless there's some kind of big revolution in Russia, which right now I don't see happening after everything that's happened the last 2 years. We would have already seen a revolution if that were to happen. You know, you had Prigozhin, the leader of
I was gonna say,
Wagner.
the Wagner guys almost did it, and then
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah,
what
the
that dude
Wagner
was
guy
thinking.
almost did it, and I mean, there were so many opportunities. Then you had the Navalny situation. That would have been an opportunity. So it doesn't look like a revolution's coming. It could happen, but we'll have to wait and see. I think that Putin has such a strong control over the country right now that it's basically
Yeah.
very, very difficult. Um, you know, so like for example, if you look at like historically the revolutions that occurred in Russia, they usually happened when Russia was very weakened. They didn't happen when Russia was strong. So like the October Revolution, you know, with Lenin, you know, that was at a time where people were not happy with the czars, you know, the kings, the old kings of Russia.
So
People
they
were
got
not
wrecked
happy
in
with
the,
them.
was it Brest-Litovsk, the treaty, or I probably pronounced it wrong, but yeah, at the end of World War One, and Russia bowed out after the Battle of Tannenberg.
Right,
Got wrecked on the Eastern Front, had to bow out of the war. He lost
right,
territory to Germany, who hadn't given
right.
up yet. Like, yeah, so and then the revolution boiled over at that point.
And
Um,
then
but then you
most
saw it happen
recently,
in Germany as well when they got herbed at the Treaty of Versailles.
mhm,
Now we tend to we don't. Communism uses the word revolution, but when like the Nazis and fascists took over, people don't call it a revolution. Did you ever notice that?
right,
For some reason, it's different.
It's an uprising, right?
But yeah, peace treaties tend to, and you touched on it. I think it was Clausewitz who said peace is just a preparation for war.
mhm,
Both sides are taking their breath, getting stronger, doing push-ups,
Yep.
rebuilding their stuff, and going to get ready. And every time this has been tried, the United States wouldn't sign the Treaty of Versailles. They were like, I see 13 wars in it. That's what peace treaties do, because they end up being, somebody got to act like the winner and be hard,
Yeah, of
and then
course.
treat the
Of
other
right,
guy
course.
like a
right,
punk,
right.
and it breeds resentment. In both sides of this conflict, although I have always questioned Russia's motive besides just the straight up imperialism, really, in Ukraine. The Israel Gaza thing, I don't want to push any buttons, but I have found that to be a more questionable on the moral scale. Like, I understand Israel's right to defend itself, but at the same time, I start to be like, all right, man, you've been straight defending yourself for a minute
Yeah,
now.
yeah, for a
And
while.
there is now a
Yeah,
potato patch. And I mean, how much more defending yourself, bro, you
I,
gonna do? Now,
I
I'm
right.
going to
think
take
they
him out.
I
I
think
ain't
they
coming
have
out for terrorists. I ain't coming out for terrorists.
no, but I
Take him
think
out and
No, I
root
they're
him
know
out.
what you're
But you
saying.
are also, you are,
yeah, their tactics are a bit brash. You know, the
Heavy-handed,
air
maybe a little bit.
airstrikes and things like that in heavily civilian populated areas are going to lead to heavy casualties, and they're okay with
Yep.
it. A lot of
Right.
other people aren't, and
they shouldn't.
the cost of going in there and going door to door and really rooting out something like Hezbollah or what's the other one there,
Hamas, for sure. You're
Hamas.
talking about Battle of Fallujah stuff. We're really
Yeah,
gonna go
yeah. I
door to
mean, well,
door. I mean,
they would not be able to sustain the amount of losses they would receive if that was the kind of thing that they had to do. So this is unfortunately the only way that they see about going through with it is to just
Yep.
destroy everything.
right, and of course, and
Unfortunately.
they're willing to accept apparently the criticism, but like there's the optics we're shown. There's the reality on the ground.
Yeah. Yeah.
In military operations, a civilian watching on TV can sit around and make all the opinions they want about what they think they saw, a small piece of what the camera could see.
Yeah.
But that's not always the reality.
Absolutely.
But I think even Israel understands like the criticism being leveled towards them, because if anybody else did this, they would get it too. And
Yep.
what is the solution? But because it begs the question of what remains when this is over. Say some sort of peace treaty happens.
Is there anything left to go back to?
And what sort of vengeful generation have they left behind? All the Palestinians they didn't bomb and kill this time are still going to be mad, peace treaty or not. What actually ends here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of a like unfortunate situation, because it's like on one hand, Israel, they may be doing a little heavy-handed stuff now, but on the other hand, it's like they almost have no choice in another way, because eventually they're going to get attacked from all sides. All those extremist, elements, Hezbollah, Hamas,
Well,
Iran,
literally
they're all
every
just,
country around them is like,
yeah, they're all getting stronger and stronger. So it's almost like, yes, on one hand, they are going to a certain extreme level, that basically the only other countries that's doing stuff that Israel's doing is Russia and Ukraine. I mean, Israel's basically doing what Russia's, the same tactics, scorched earth, just leveling cities, leveling towns to try to get the terrorists out, because going door to door is just impossible. I mean,
it's
it's just,
literally a death sentence, man.
yeah. So
really
it's just, so it's like on one hand, it sucks. On the other hand, they also are in a situation where it's like they have no choice, but they have to do something. If they didn't do anything, then that would obviously show weakness. Or if the operation was very limited, then it would just be pointless. Hamas would just keep attacking and strengthening. But then the problem now is it's like Israel responded, and they're doing this big operation, and so what that's doing is inadvertently adding fuel to the fire of all the Muslim extremists now. So now, it's kind of like, the same thing that happened to us when we went into Afghanistan and Iraq. It
just
kind of
create more hate for you,
more hate, exactly, yeah. But it's almost like what else can they do? They have no choice. But that's where we are right now. So there's no like magic bullet, unfortunately, and so it was going to escalate regardless. The Middle East was going to escalate regardless whether Israel did this or not. But Israel going in there obviously accelerates things more, especially now that they're going to be going into the last city left in Gaza. Once they take that over, basically the Muslim world is going to see this as like a sort of what sort of what Ukraine did in Ukraine, what Russia did in Ukraine.
Yeah, like annex the
They're gonna like
territory.
imperialism. They want to clear out Gaza and reoccupy it with Israelis and stuff like that. Because there is a element of Israeli society that believes that Gaza is part of Israel. So is the West Bank, and same thing with the Sinai Peninsula, which is part of Egypt now. A lot of Israelis believe that they should have the Sinai Peninsula as well. So it's kind of like Netanyahu and a lot of Israelis have the same mentality that Putin and the Russians have about Ukraine. It's
You
about
read my mind.
recapturing these territories that Israel lost in all the different wars in the last couple of decades, either through treaties or just, whatever.
Israel
So
actually gained a lot of territory. Israel came out the winner in both of its wars. They were attacked by surprise, Yom Kippur War and
right,
the 1967 one, and then they turned around and gained. They took the Golan Heights from Syria,
right,
um, the West Bank from, I believe, Jordan. Ended up with Gaza and Jerusalem itself. The generals of that operation were told to stop, don't go in the old city, and he was like, "Now we're going." And him and his soldiers went and prayed at the Western Wall for the first time, like the Israelis had been able to do so in however like hundreds of years. Israel's not giving all this stuff up lightly. They believe for a fact that's their chosen holy land. It was given to them. It's
right.
theirs.
Yep.
Some of the other things that they've expanded into, the Sinai you mentioned, they took that from Egypt in the same war. Not exactly his, besides their biblical journey through it, not traditionally Israeli territory, but like they won it fair and square. They whooped ass to get that.
Right.
I can understand the nationalistic sentiment in all this, and you compared like that sort of they're putting the band back together is what I call this. What Putin's
Right.
trying to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Where do you think, hypothetical, all right, World War III, like this is real. This isn't an air raid drill. This isn't it got hot but it cooled off. It actually happened. Do you think Ukraine? Do you think something with Israel, or do you maybe think something like a little like low key, like that we forgot about, Syria, or maybe something? Where do you suppose like the event that'll actually kick off a World War III scenario would happen?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be Asia. Like I don't think it's going to be like China or North Korea. I think those are just like distractions kind of in a sense from the main event. I think it's going to be Ukraine and Israel. Those are going to be the two that bring us to actual, war. China and North Korea will be involved in the war, but I don't think they're going to be playing as big of a role as Russia and the Muslim world is. And that's coming out of the Bible too. I mean, I'm a Christian, and the Bible says that in the end times, Russia is going to lead a big coalition of Muslim countries, and they're going to try to attack Israel. So, and Asia will be involved in that too, but they're going to be kind of more
Like
on
a
the
broker.
sideline. Yeah, kind of more like support, more of a support role than anything else. But it is possible too, for example, that China could even attack Australia if they get powerful enough. That's why we're seeing a big buildup of missiles in Australia. The U.S. has recently sold a bunch of Tomahawk missiles to
And the sub
Australia.
program we have with them now too.
Right,
We're helping them build
right.
submarines.
There was controversy
Nuclear
about that
power.
too.
Right. It's the U.S., Australia, and Great Britain. They're making this coalition of nuclear subs for Australia, and apparently they signed an agreement that they're not going to use any nuclear weapons on those subs. But
Yeah.
how I mean that's just what they're saying.
Yep.
The Tomahawk missiles are nuclear capable. Actually, a lot of people
Yeah.
don't know that. They're conventionally armed now, but it wouldn't take much. All we would have to do is just ship some warheads to them, and they could just arm them with nuclear warheads if we wanted to. If there was a crisis situation and things were escalating, let's say they're conventionally armed now. If things are escalating, we just load up a bunch of warheads on some, C-17s or C-5s and just ship them over there. They bolt them on, and now all of a sudden you have, whatever, how
Yeah.
many Tomahawks they have.
Nuclear armed Australia.
Going hot.
Right.
Australia's already nuclear armed because they're actually a Commonwealth nation of Britain. Where they are and how many they got, I don't know, but I'm certain. And if they conducted nuclear tests in Australia, in the very interior of it, they have their own little Nevada test site down there.
Everybody does.
Right.
All the cool
Yeah, but
kids are doing
there
it.
are, I would speculate that there are most likely British or American controlled nuclear weapons on the continent of Australia.
I wouldn't
When
be surprised.
and in Europe too, when we loan out our nukes to other people, they're under the control of the United States Air Force. They're in your country, but they're not yours.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Although we don't let people touch the big boom
Right.
booms very often.
because there used to be there was the big. First, it was how Britain even got a nuke, or France for that matter. Like bugs me. I'm like how, but it was the United States, Russia, China, South Africa managed to produce a bomb, and now we have Pakistan, India in the club, and China.
Yeah.
It's widely believed that Israel possesses nuclear weapons.
Yeah, and North Korea.
I feel, and like to be like this, they wouldn't talk the shit that they do if they didn't have some nuclear weapons. It's
Oh, they
completely
definitely do.
right now.
Well,
Their
it's
policy is ambiguity. They don't
right.
say. They're like, I don't
They
know.
don't officially. Everybody knows it though. All the Middle East, Iran knows it. Turkey knows it.
Yep.
And when you think of the American Manhattan Project,
Right.
they're mostly Jewish scientists who, like, I mean, I'm not alleging any conspiracy here. I'm just saying that it's how is it that Israel doesn't have nuclear weapons, and if they don't, it's the greatest deception in history.
Right. Yeah, well, the official story is that they worked with the French, and the French,
I heard it was the South African tests.
hmm,
South Africa was the proxy because everybody was like, why the hell does South Africa have nukes? It was because the Israelis needed a proxy.
Oh, so you're saying they did it under the guise of South Africa to make it look like it was South Africa, but it was really
And
something else.
we'll give you a couple.
Interesting.
We'll give you a
Interesting.
couple warheads in exchange for thank you. But
hmm,
like, just
Huh.
put that was under their
Yeah.
flag, is what I've seen alleged. Um,
Huh.
they have these
Interesting.
satellites now. Greg knows them. They have the Vela satellites that can spot nuclear detonations.
right.
And this is how we discovered the so-called South African nuclear program. And it was just like
Oh, satellite picked it
just
up.
odd. I mean, not that they could do it, but it was almost why.
Right.
And it was alleged that either China or Israel or some third
Party got in
somebody
there.
else was actually doing this under the guise of the thing.
Interesting.
I don't know how deep you like to go with conspiracies. It's completely believable.
That's interesting. I've never actually heard that one. I've never heard that. That's interesting. I'll have to look into it.
Yeah, that's a wild one. That's a wild
I
one.
mean, think about it. South Africa was a nuclear armed nation, but then they were kind of just like, you know what? No, we're not anymore. We're good. Who does that? Unless you either stuck it up your sleeve or that wasn't your job to begin with. You know?
Well, yeah, that's a great. That's a rabbit hole I'm gonna have to go down too.
I am no expert, but I read a lot of Wikipedia and articles about nuclear weapons, not because I'm some weirdo, but just because it's fascinating. The most destructive weapon
I got to tell you,
in history.
if
And
you are,
all this stuff and all these government secret stuff, it's all cloak and dagger stuff, and nobody knew what was going on. They had to find out what a satellite. They're like, what was that? Like, it's wildly interesting.
yeah, if you are interested in learning about nuclear war and nuclear war survival, there is no better place than NYPrepper on YouTube. There is a whole entire playlist dedicated to nuclear war survival. It is extensive. You get to see Greg now. You get to see Greg years ago. You get to see the evolution
Of the
of
beard,
NYPrepper, from no beard to beard.
put it on time lapse. Just play it really fast. Nothing else you get to watch is beard grow.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
funny.
But it's an extensive list. It really covers a lot of the stuff that you're not going to find in one of those stupid government pamphlets. Have you seen those things?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
Terrible, man. It's like
yeah,
run, hide, don't look at the flash. Just hide
right.
underneath a car or something. You'll be fine. Uh,
Yeah.
don't do that. Don't do that. Do go to NY Prepper's YouTube channel and check out that playlist because it is worth your time. I guarantee you.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm gonna be adding some more videos to that too as well.
Awesome, man. Awesome. It's fantastic. Your YouTube channel is how many years old now?
I started in like 2017. So yeah, I
He's
guess
an
like
old man out here.
Yeah.
Eesh.
6 or 7 years. Yeah. When I
Yeah.
first year or two, I didn't really post like regularly. I'd post once in a while,
Yep.
pretty regularly actually, but not to the extent that I've done the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's
kind
really
of
taken
started
off for
out
you,
as,
man. And it couldn't have happened to a better guy.
oh, thanks.
A lot of people don't know that I actually know you personally.
I actually met him in person
Yeah,
once myself.
Greg has been to my house.
That's a flex. Okay.
Yeah. And they're like, "Oh yeah, Greg, yeah, I know Greg." I'm like, "No, like I like actually know him."
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
good times, man. Good
yeah,
times.
yeah. I got to say, we miss you. The best SHTF partner that you could want in the world is right there.
He'd be
And
doing the most. I'd be like,
yeah,
bro, chill. We're just going to McDonald's.
man.
In and out. I'm gonna get the quarter pounders and the Big Mac buns and squat.
um, Yeah,
I'm in.
fantastic. And you're so much more than just a YouTube channel. Your website is extensive. There's a lot of knowledge on the website.
He's got a website.
Yeah.
It
Greg,
is.
lay it on the folks, please. Let them
Yeah,
know where they can find you.
NewYorkPrepper.com. Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna be posting more stuff there, but yeah, I have a lot of my nuclear war stuff over there too. Just like quick references and stuff like that. So if you don't want to watch a whole video, you know, if you don't have time, you can kind of quickly read through some of the main points. But yeah, I do post stuff on my website, and I'm gonna be posting more stuff. You know, I just
NYPrepper.com, is that what you said?
NewYorkPrepper.com, just
New York,
written out.
spell the whole thing out.
Yeah, one word.
NewYorkPrepper.com. Check that
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna put that in the description section. Right
Yep.
down
I was
here so
imagining,
folks
actually,
can find it.
we'll edit this part out, but I was imagining you put the little tag in the video itself so you can.
Oh yeah, exactly. See, genius. Genius.
Not only do you have to edit the video in software, you then have to upload it, then you have to do more stuff to it on YouTube.
Yeah.
I'm editing.
And Patreon's it's no different. It's the same thing. You know, you upload to the platform, it shows you description section, title, and
Right.
it's really no different. And you can set your tiers. It's we ended the memberships, right, on the YouTube. We cut the memberships out, and just decided to start the Patreon because bro, the censorship on YouTube is out of control.
They won't even tell you what you did.
Yeah, the things we talked about here tonight, if we discuss those on YouTube, guaranteed this video gets taken
For
down.
me, you got to be specific, man. My entire existence goes against the community standards. It's like you said something wrong, but I'm like, well, I don't know. You don't have any slightest idea how little that narrows it down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. YouTube's pretty terrible lately.
And it's like, I'd like to follow, I want to do an appeal. They're like, no. Thanks. All right.
Yeah. I mean, you've been tiptoeing that that line on YouTube for a long time, and sometimes we step over the line a little bit, and they get mad, and they shut you down for what, it's like a week now, right? If they
See, that's why I get you, because the things I say are so unhinged that the AI doesn't really know how to interpret it. So I blame you.
It's true.
I blame you. It's actually because it's not. There's no way that stupid computer understands what I'm saying. Joke's on it. I don't understand what I'm saying.
But I think the you know, they had to create the algorithm to try and search through all this video because, like they said, nobody could ever watch all of this stuff in person all the time and keep tabs on it. It was
traumatizing people. Facebook tried that. The content moderators, humans, and the stuff people were posting was giving them PTSD. They're like, wow.
Yeah, we got to send this off to the robots.
And at first I laughed and I was like, welcome to the jungle, you know. But then I was like, you know, the stuff that people do on the internet is depraved sometimes. Like, you're anonymous. You're anonymous. You can hide behind proxy networks and every other thing. And you can just be, and trolls. Like, I'm more like, okay, if your jokes are like funny or you're doing it right, all right, a little trolling's fine. When people are disgusting.
Yeah.
I
agree.
And if you think for a split second about trolling, NYPrepper's live streams or his videos, his moderators are the best in the business, and you're not slipping through. You can just don't bother trying. Because it's not happening.
Right.
It's not happening. The best in the
immediately
business.
Banned.
I had mentioned that with all due respect, I don't watch the videos because I want to copy you, but it's really because he was like, don't go on his channel and talk shit. Because
so I gotta be honest with you, man. Greg's subscribers are extremely loyal to you, and I have literally watched these folks stand up for him. When somebody else is like, oh, he's an alarmist, he's this, he's that. And Greg just calls it as he sees it, and you take it at face value. So it is you who are the alarmist. He's just putting out the information, telling everybody what's going on, keeping you informed in as real time as he can. And now you're saying he's alarmist. It's unfolding, man. It's information. It's coming out all the time. All the time. There's always more information coming out, always more intel. Always new things in the works.
I wanted to ask you, is you're like self-funded, self-shot, like one-man show, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Any advice for folks like yourself up and coming, trying to do like what you're doing? Like short of, what do you lay it on us. How you doing? You got 100,000.
Yeah, I would say in retrospect, now that I'm a larger channel, I can look back and see where I made mistakes. And the biggest mistake that, especially in the prepping community and you know, alternative media, the biggest mistakes people make, and the mistakes that I made is, first of all, not familiarizing yourself with whatever platform you choose to use primarily, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, whatever. You're going to have to pick one platform and specialize in that, because it's impossible to monetize across all platforms, and nobody has time to do everything in all on all platforms. So you got to pick one. For me, it was YouTube, and I like the video format of it. I always loved just making videos about how to survive nuclear war or whatever it is. I like the video style format. But you know, just being very familiar with whatever platform you're using, understand their guidelines, and stay out of trouble, because depending on what you're trying to do, you know, if you're just out there trying to like, you know, spread information and you don't really care if you get banned or not, then of course, you know, who cares, right? You're just trying to spread the truth. But even then, what's going to happen is they're going to delete your content anyway. So if you think
Yeah.
that, oh, I don't care if I get banned, I'll just say whatever I want, but then they'll ban you and they'll
And
take
you
your
get banned.
content down, so nobody's
Yeah.
going to even see that content. So you got to figure out, you got to be clever, like you were saying. You know, it's like it's a fine line that you have to walk between telling the truth and following the rules of whatever platform, you know, you're using. And unfortunately, you're not going to change it. It sucks. The rules suck on a lot of these platforms, most of them, even the ones that are so-called free, like
Yeah.
Twitter, for example. Recently, Twitter just banned me for absolutely no reason at all for two
Wow.
weeks. Then they reinstated my account. I never had any violations with them. I don't even post anything there.
Huh.
I don't even post. The only thing I did was post my videos there, because I knew a lot of my audience is on Twitter, so they would like
Yeah.
to just go there and see all my videos. So I would just post my videos there. I never interact really with anyone, just use it for information. And they just, you know, randomly banned me for 2 weeks. I don't know if, you know, they caught
Wow.
some of my videos or whatever. But anyway,
Interesting.
the mistakes that I made was getting in trouble with YouTube, you know, and it sucks. You know, you have to follow their rules, but if you want to stay, you know, in the game,
Relevant.
you have,
Yeah.
unfortunately, you have to follow the rule. You have to play by the rules. You know, it's just like politics. You know, you could say, ah, screw the president. You know, I'm just gonna I'm gonna start a revolution. I'm gonna try to overthrow the government.
Yeah.
Well,
You're not
maybe
getting very far.
you're not going
Yeah.
to get too far. Exactly. Yeah. So you got to work within the system, play by the rules, because what happens is, you know, as soon as they're AI now, there's a lot more AI now than there was years ago. Like when I started, there was still a lot more people involved, like Livingston Man was saying. And because there's more AI involved, it's a lot more sensitive. There's a lot more false positives. So
Mm.
if you're questioning something in your head, should I do a video on this? Should I share this footage? Should
Look for
I
it
talk
first.
about this? If you're even questioning it in your head, you got to play it on the safe side and say no. Okay,
Absolutely.
figure out a way to creatively express yourself. Like for example, I cover wars, right?
1 second. You're good, Greg. Go right ahead. I'll be
Yeah,
right back.
yeah, sure,
Hiya,
sure.
hiya,
I'll just wait.
hiya, hiya.
This room was a lot bigger before he brought these giant chairs in here.
Yeah, I'll just wait for him to come back. So this way, is he going to be gone for a while, or
No,
you
I think
know?
he's an old man. He's got to dehydrate.
Okay, dehydrate. Gotcha. Yeah, yeah. So,
Dude, I love these conversations. I always appreciate talking to someone who is listen, I'm not as up on things as you, but I know my history, and I see it repeating itself. Is really all I see. Like the three great nations, really, like or societies, I'll call them that. Orwell basically predicted. You have Eurasia, East Asia, and Oceania. Like
right.
NATO, Russia, Europe, the Japanese, China. Like everybody still has these beefs left over from the end of World War II. Like most of them stem there. Why is North Korea mad? Because like Japan raped them. China and North Korea were like devastated by Japan. Then Japan got off scot free. We like hung the Nazis. We hung the Nazis and made a big stink, but like Japan was, you didn't listen. We're just gonna look past it. And then why are they mad? Why are they mad? Because like we whooped Japan's ass and nuked them, I guess, you know. But then they got off. Like there was none of that. Like keep doing what you were doing. And now Japan doesn't act like that anymore. But China, the entire mainland of Asia, there essentially got beef against not only now Japan, but the Western powers that they see let Japan get off easy. And then there's the Korean War. We fired shots and fought and killed like Chinese and North Korean soldiers. Vietnam, all this.
Right.
All these beefs are from wars that like, well, everyone on this video, we weren't alive for.
Right.
We're here still fighting, still mad about the same issues. Essentially.
Yeah.
And like, what is it, man? Like what, how does it end? Like, where do we go from here? It's got to turn into that 3 powers thing. You need that tripartite thing. It's got to be like Asia, like Middle Europe, and like the Americas. But the southern tier, the southern hemisphere,
yeah, they're going to come into their own.
That always gets left out.
Yeah, they're going to come into their own. I mean, South America, I don't think will be denied. I think they're kind of up and coming, and I think Russia and China are helping them on the way up.
Sure.
And you know, they're working down there. They're in Africa heavy. They're in South America heavy. And they're going to turn that into their promised lands. You know, I really think that's the vision going forward for them.
Or is it strategic? Just another way to
it could be
establish
almost the American, you know, a base in every country for the most part. You know, that's how you spread diplomacy.
Now, what annoys me about politics and diplomacy and how that game is played, what bugs me is that like Russia like bombs like apartment buildings and supermarkets. They shoot missiles just willy-nilly, like just hit something in Ukraine, you're good.
Right.
But then like, you know, Ukraine fires a shot at them and they're like, how dare you? It's like they fucking lodge a complaint. And I'm like, what the hell? What is this? And they're like, how we condemn this in the strongest possible terms. Son, you invaded that country.
I think we're doing
they
that.
Dared to shoot
we're
back.
doing that war thing right now, so that's, you know,
how dare they?
Shoot, just saying.
Shoot me.
Yeah.
The guy who stormed into their
country. All's fair in love and
shoot
war. And
me.
They love to hate each other and they're warring, so everything's fair.
This is like when the guy does the thing the other guy did and they act like indignant. Like, I can't believe you do what I did to you. Like,
how dare you?
I can't stand about politics. It's so like just, well, you got to lodge a complaint.
Yeah, well,
you both are stupid, though. Like, realize that.
They don't lodge complaints anymore. They just lob missiles. That's, you know, that's what
pretty
much. The war thing seems to be so contagious, man. So contagious. The one country sees the other country at war and they're like, we can war better than them. We could go to war right now. We would wipe the floor with them. And then their neighbors like, you couldn't wipe the floor with anybody. And they're like, oh yeah. And you know, start throwing rocks at each other. This is the tinderbox that is the world at the moment. I think
it's like 1930s vibes, man.
Very much so, especially with the prime minister of Slovakia, you know, the attempted assassination attempt on him. It really echoes World War I sentiments, you know, before we got drug into that whole mess. What do they say? History doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes or something like that.
The reason history repeats itself is because nobody takes it seriously and everybody asks themselves, what do I need to know this for?
Yeah.
They disregard it. They go learn math, music, English, whatever, you know, all the other ones. Nobody understands why they're supposed to know history until you are like 41 years old, 7 hours and 26 minutes and 5 seconds old. And you're like, I see now. Like, yo, this happened before. Like, it's a rerun for crying out loud. You know, like it's like.
Yeah. I've seen this somewhere.
Yep.
The rise of course, the rise of authoritarianism, of course. Now, and what authoritarianism is a hard word to say. You may have picked that up. authoritarianism thrives on paranoia, hard times, uncertainty, all the worst stuff.
Right.
That people, and then everybody comes out and they start yelling for a strong man, right? And it's something, you know, fix this shit.
Yeah.
And you get people like, you know, these authoritarian figures, and then they make controversial policies and they do things that are, but it was the will of the people. And then the people end up forgetting that it was them that clamored for that.
Yeah.
And then they get it and they're sorry. What do you think, Greg?
No, yeah, I agree with you 100%. That's definitely what happens. Yep.
Are we sliding
Uh,
into that? I'm going to ask the guy. I'm going to ask the guy that I think is most qualified to at least try to answer the questions. Where does it all end, short of, you know, nuclear fallout? How does it end up playing out?
yeah. Well, I think I mean that's a good question. I think it's eventually going to end up in nuclear war, but I don't think nuclear war is going to end the world, or you know, we're still going to survive it. There's still a lot of people are going to die, but not everybody's going to die. It's not going to be this like end of the world. Nuclear war is not going to end the world, basically. So there's going to be a nuclear war, and then there's going to be an aftermath and a world that emerges after the nuclear war. So it's going to be a very different world. There's going to be different power structures. There's going to be society. Obviously, society's going to be different. You know, you're going to have martial law in a lot of countries, and so you're going to have a collapse of, you know, all the modern conveniences we're used to, electricity and things like that, whatever. So you're going to have a period of martial law, and then what's going to happen is the martial law is going to stay in effect, basically, and then you're going to have just totally different alliances. The world is going to emerge a different place, and then, like for example, I believe that potentially China is going to try to invade Russia, maybe after the nuclear war, when Russia's weakened. China could go in and try to take Siberia for the resources, because
Have
that's
you
what
ever
they
read?
need.
Have you read The Bear and the Dragon by Tom Clancy?
I have not, no, but he's a good author
Exact
for sure.
scenario you just described is what ends up happening.
Yeah, I mean, I think that could happen, and I think China right now, and you know, going forward, China's just sitting around. That's why I don't see China as a military threat to us. I see Russia as the military threat, because Russia is the only country in the world that can go toe to toe with us in a nuclear sense, and even conventionally as well, because they have a lot of the Soviet weapons that they inherited that they still have. Plus, now with the Ukraine war, everything going on over there, they've ramped up their military production. So, like 30% of their budget is going towards military now. They're consolidating their power. The former defense minister is now going to be the head of the Russian National Security Council.
Mm.
And the new defense minister is going to be Putin's former economic advisor. So that's like a big red flag that basically Russia is preparing to either go to war with NATO or for some kind of a long-term war. If they're putting an economic guy in charge of the military, they obviously want to figure out where they can cut costs. And then they're putting the defense minister in charge of the Security Council. So they're basically consolidating the power around the military. But yeah, I think it's going to be a showdown between Russia and the U.S. That's where it ends, and China's just sitting back as an opportunist, and they're gonna watch us kill each other, and then they're gonna come in and pick up all the pieces for themselves. You know, because for them it's good. They can just sit back and do, like right now with the war in Ukraine. They're not involved in it. They're not sending weapons to Russia. They're not, just like, for example, we're sending tons of aid to Ukraine, billions of dollars in financial aid, billions of dollars worth of equipment. So
Yep.
we're weakening ourselves to prevent a war in the European theater. Meanwhile, China is just sitting there literally doing nothing. They're growing their economy, they're building their nuclear arsenal, they're building their military, while both us and Russia are depleting ourselves, and they're just going to wait for the right moment to jump in and take advantage, you know. So Yeah, I think, like I said, I think after the nuclear war, there's going to be a new world that emerges, and it's going to be very different for sure. But I don't think like nuclear war is going to be like the end of the world, like a lot of people think.
Yeah.
Um, because it's just impossible to kill off everybody from a nuclear war. It's not going to happen that way. That's kind of a more like rosy thinking of it, because people they refuse to accept the fact that it could happen and we may have to survive it. And
Yeah.
people just want to think, oh, I don't have to survive it. I'm just gonna. It doesn't matter. We're just all gonna die. Well, what if we don't all die? What if we have to live through that crap? People getting irradiated and food
Yeah, if it's
shortages like
like
crazy.
Tuesday, like or something, like we're not all gonna die. Like
On a Wednesday, maybe.
maybe
Maybe.
83 times and counting.
Um, but I think you're right. I think it is survivable. A lot of people have the misconception of a nuke gets dropped in New York City and all of New York State is no longer inhabitable.
They don't
Right,
really work like
It's
that.
not really the case, and I
right.
think nowadays, I don't think they're going to be lobbing around the Tsar Bomba. You know what I mean? I
No,
think these
no.
are more tactical, more precision strikes,
Correct.
bunker
Yep.
buster nukes. And some of these things
Right,
may actually be detonated underground, not
right,
above the surface.
right.
Um, we're into this fifth and sixth generation warfare.
Yeah, but mutually assured destruction still exists, and
Oh
really,
yeah,
anyone taking on the United States or Russia or each of them is subject to that. And in NATO terms, an attack on one of them, if Russia were to launch a nuke at Poland, they could potentially be exposing themselves to massive retaliation.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right.
Everything's coming over the North Pole, buddy. Here it comes.
Mutually assured destruction, for anyone who doesn't know what that is, MAD, M-A-D, is the cold fact that a launch against one nuclear power, similarly armed,
Yeah,
will destroy both and no one can win. And so it's actually that doctrine is what has kept us from nuking each other in the first place.
yep.
Right. Well, speaking about that, one thing that should concern everybody, especially preppers, is that our government now, and there's a lot of people in this country that believe that we should disarm ourselves, which is the stupidest thing.
Oh,
For example, Bill Clinton, he signed a executive order when he was president that we would not launch on warning, that we would basically absorb the first strike and then determine what to do. And Obama carried over that principle that we don't launch on warning and we wait for the strike, which is stupid because there's not going to be any waiting. They're just going to annihilate everything, and then we won't be able to strike back.
yeah.
But there's a
Publicly
huge,
declaring that doctrine is ridiculous, and
it's
I would
ridiculous. And
hope
then,
that it's straight
right.
false, that that was a lie that they told. You
Well,
don't tell your adversaries that, of all things.
right.
Like, we're gonna let you knock
Yeah.
us right out first. Like, that's crazy talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they've been stripping down a lot of our deployed warheads. For example, under Obama signed the START treaty with Putin in 2012. And under that treaty, we removed like 2/3 of the warheads we had on our Minuteman missiles.
Yep.
So we have 400 Minutemans, and they're capable of holding 3 warheads. We stripped down 2 out of the 3 on each one of our missiles. So we had 1,200 warheads on the Minutemans. Now we only have 400. I don't know if we're gonna. I mean, I don't know if Biden has any plans to rearm them now that Putin pulled out. But to rearm them,
We should just trust that Russia lived up to its
right,
obligations.
right,
Ah,
and then so Russia, they know that we're in this situation where we're like stripping our own nuclear weapons down, and they're just waiting for the opportunity when they feel like, okay, they're weakened, they stripped themselves of whatever defenses they had, and now we're going to launch a huge surprise attack. And that's one of my big concerns is it's not going to be like it could be like an escalation, like in Europe something could happen and it could be like a tit for tat. That could happen too. Another possibility is that it could be just a big surprise attack that one day, Russia just decides to launch without any indication of that at all. They could just
yeah.
decide, okay, today, just a pure on surprise attack, you know, like somebody breaking into your house at night. So those are the two possibilities there. Either like a tit for tat escalation in Europe that ends up going to nuclear strategic, or just a surprise attack.
But then, like, we also have measures in place against that. Mutually assured destruction, again, refers to the nuclear triad. You have ICBMs,
Yep.
you have bomber forces, and you have submarines. If you kill everything on land, there's all these submarines still lurking out there.
Oh,
right.
Again, you launch,
Now,
it's still going to get hit.
Another thing about the subs is that under Obama, we removed 4 Trident missiles on each of our subs. So we still have 20 missiles on each sub. We have 14 subs with the Trident missiles. We used to have 24 on each sub. Now we're down to 20 on each sub. So it's not like, it doesn't sound like a huge difference, but it could
Yeah.
potentially make the difference if we have to do follow-up strikes. If it's not just like, you know, they launch at us and then we launch back and then that's it. It could go multiple rounds. Like, let's say they launch at us, we launch back, then they launch again, then we launch again, then they launch again, then we launch again. And it could go like that a couple of rounds. And if we remove all of our warheads, then we can only go one round and then that's it. And then they're just going to keep pounding us, you know, and annihilate all our bases and everything. And then we're just basically a third world country. And then we're ripe for the taking at that point. You know, they could even invade us after that. So,
well, this aspect of nuclear war always fascinating me too, is that like you said, well, they could then invade us. At that point, what are you invading and what is there to keep?
Yeah.
It almost makes no sense unless your intent is to just ideologically genocide your opponent.
Right.
Strategically, it doesn't make sense. Yo, listen, we buy stuff. I feel like China would.
They have the most.
I
think they have the most to lose if something happens to America, because one, we are in huge debt to them, and two, we buy everything from them. What scares me is that the industrial machine that brought victory to the Allies in World War II no longer exists here. It's gone. Those buildings are knocked down. Everything's gone. I don't know if we have the capability to ramp up a war machine to win a third global war. I mean, granted, we have the biggest, strongest military in the world, but they march on their stomach and on gasoline, diesel fuel, straight up. They need it to survive. They need the ammo. They need the munitions. I don't know if we have the capacity anymore, man. We've sold all our manufacturing out overseas. China makes everything and ships it over here, with the exception of our military hardware. So I don't know if it exists, man. It actually makes me, as an American, a little nervous to know that machine no longer exists.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Yeah, I don't think that we have that capacity anymore, and that's very concerning. And you know, Russia and China, they're watching us. They're seeing all of this. It's not just us that sees this. And that's why Russia decided to invade Ukraine. Why do you think they did it? They didn't do it when Trump was president. Not that, you know, Trump is like some magic savior or anything, but
He was
they
a wild
knew
card
that
for sure.
he was a wild card, right?
Yeah.
Versus Biden, some old guy that can't remember his own, you know, name. How's he going to remember the nuclear codes? You know, one thing that that concerns me very much is something as simple as memorizing the nuclear codes. The president has to memorize every morning the nuclear launch codes. They get different codes every morning. So when he wakes up and starts his day, they give him a card, and on the card are a number of different codes, and only one of those codes is the actual proper code. And he has to memorize that code every day, which one it is, you know, because when he calls up to authenticate himself, because before they can order a strike, he has to authenticate that he is the president. The only way to do that is with the proper code. And so if, let's say, there's missiles coming, you know, minutes count, because you have 30 minutes if it's launched by land, 15 minutes from a sub. And so he's got maybe 5 minutes to order a retaliation. And he's going through every single code trying to figure out, was it this one? Was it this one? Was it this one? And meanwhile, you have missiles coming at thousands of miles an hour, every second counts, every minute counts, and I mean that's something that could happen. But the Russians are not stupid; they know this, and they see this as their opportunity now potentially to not just attack Ukraine, but maybe they're going to go after NATO. Maybe they're going to just straight up launch nukes at us eventually because they
Yeah.
see that we're weak. We're weak right now. Our military's depleted. Our nuclear forces are stripped down. The culture of our military with all the LGBT stuff and all that. I mean, we're not the same America of 1980s or 90s or something. So.
Yeah, definitely not.
So yeah, but I agree with you about, our ability to churn out ammunition and weapons is very much not what it used to be.
Yeah, I
So
mean, even the armories, like was it Lake City ammo used to sell to civilians, and then they stopped. They need to
right,
keep everything for the
the
military.
government.
Yeah, so I was going to counterpoint your argument with, well, no, because we seem to be churning out plenty of arms in
Yeah.
general for everyone. We just don't keep them. We give them to everybody else.
Another thing that
Um,
concerns me big time is the
Quick, you're talking about nuclear codes. I read this article. It was only one of its kind that was in the thing, but I was like, that's interesting. And it said for like 20 years, the nuclear like code was 11111.
It's
Like you
funny.
can't mess that up.
Yeah, nobody's gonna screw that.
And nor will any like self-respecting hacker guess that. No way that's
Yeah, no, it's way too easy. So to Greg's point, I actually saw an article, I think it was yesterday, that said that Joe Biden used executive privilege to make sure that the transcripts from his special counsel meeting that he said, everything was fine. Who is this guy to say that I don't know who my kid is?
Right.
That he used executive privilege to make sure that those would never be released to the public.
Can do
Wow.
that.
Yeah.
Wow.
What it seems like is everything the man said under oath is true, and what he said is a lie because now he's hiding it. So
Yeah.
perhaps the commander in chief doesn't have the cognitive ability to see this through, and that's nerve wracking. The other thing that really tweaks me is that the rest of the world, they are stocking, fortifying, and preparing their nuclear survival bunkers for
Sure.
civilians.
Yep.
I have seen nothing from the federal government.
No, nothing at
For
all.
us, no, it's as if that this could never happen. And I think I've always been of the mindset that they would never tell us if anything was going to happen. We wouldn't know until we saw the flashes in the sky
Right.
and heard the explosions. Would we know that something's going on?
Only
And
the rich,
Right.
powerful, and special
we
people
get the
get to
after
know.
action report. You know what I mean? Um,
Right.
Hi, I am the pre-programmed computer to inform you, American citizen, that
yeah.
nuclear war is or has occurred. This message will repeat.
Yep. And that's about all you're going to get. So it's up to us. It's up to you out there in your home to make sure that you are prepared for not just a nuclear war, but any scenario, whether it's a severe weather event, because those are becoming more common.
Space
Um,
weather.
yeah, the oh man, the grid could go down tomorrow when the sun says hiccup.
My
Who
first
knows?
my first line of especially for folks who are new, who are suspecting that perhaps the world is a little bit less rosy than they've been led to believe.
Mhm.
My first thing is imagine like nobody's talking about change your whole lifestyle and go nuts and everything, but just put some stuff together in case a scenario occurs that you did not plan for. Uh, some of us might call that an emergency, even.
Yeah.
We don't got to go using words like apocalypse and SHTF and all this,
Nope.
because we know folks where like, something could catch fire, something could crash, something could
Yeah.
fall down, go boom.
Absolutely.
And it's not so much. It doesn't even have to be a society-wide thing. You may be the only person experiencing this.
Yeah, it could be your own personal emergency, we'll
Right.
call it.
You hydroplane in the car in the snow and you're stuck. Like,
Yep.
you
Right.
don't want to wait for it to hit home and get smoked.
Yeah, it's so
Right.
important to have an emergency kit with you and the knowledge to be able to employ that emergency kit should you need it. You know, that's something that we all preach, and I think it's something that we really need to get back to here at Hudson Valley Prepping and Survival is really pushing that be prepared. Be prepared to be your own first responder. Be prepared to be your family's first responder, because in a true disaster, there's not too many first responders, and they're going to be stretched so thin. The likelihood of you getting the golden ticket that the fire truck is going to show up is slim to none when the whole entire world is on fire.
So many
True.
metaphors.
So
about
have
that.
a fire extinguisher, folks. Have
Yeah.
two. They're small, you know. It's things like that that people don't think about.
Yeah,
And
not even a diss, but like when seconds count, like I don't know, authorities and professionals are minutes out
yeah,
or more.
or more,
So-
pending
Right.
pending how rural
true.
you live.
Right. That's
You know,
very
I
true.
have family that if they called 911 right now in good weather, it's going to be 15 to 20 minutes before they see anybody. Like you said, when seconds count, help is minutes away. So get some training, guys. Even if
Not
it's
only do you have to take these at some point, you're gonna have to take it in your own hands. You
Mhm.
you can and are capable. You'd be surprised. We all know the story of the 115-pound woman lifted a car off her child.
Yep.
It's that when the situation arises, you will be able to handle it. But if you are complacent and say have this "it won't happen to me" attitude, well then yes, it's gonna happen to you. It's gonna hit you, man.
Yeah.
Can you be safe from everything? Can you prep for every scenario? Absolutely not.
no
Hard
but you-
times
you,
gonna come.
You can try.
Hard times are going to come, but those hard times will be softened by the fact that you looked forward.
Absolutely. Give yourself a
Yep.
little cushion. A little cushion.
Exactly.
You know, so everybody has the old do I bug in? Do I bug out? The answer is yes.
Yep.
Yes. 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 You should be prepared to do both, because
Exactly.
you know things happen, like East Palestine, Ohio. Um, if you stay, you're probably going to die. If you
Right.
leave, you will live, and then you can come back
What happened
later.
East Palestine, where
and be
Israel
okay.
bombed that shit too?
No, that was in Ohio.
He didn't find that funny. Or is he frozen? I got him.
Yeah, man, it's important to be. You know, a lot of people are. This is my castle. I'll die in it.
Sure, but what if it burned down? What then?
Yeah, are you
And
gonna
that could
stay there
happen.
then?
That could happen not because of an apocalypse. That could happen because of faulty wiring tomorrow.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Right,
Mouse
right.
chews a wire. You
Right.
know?
Right.
My thing now, Mike zooms out. Mike preps for the bigger picture.
Yeah,
A future without society as we know it.
correct.
If either of us preaches anything, that is, I preach a more pragmatic thing. Emergency strikes out of left field every time. Whether it's, I wish I had a screwdriver right now
Yeah.
to like, oh, you know, like a personal crisis, because that's, in my opinion, more likely to happen than a society, civilization affecting event. And if you're not prepared to, like, you know, you at some point in your life, you're gonna have to take matters in your hands. It's extremely vague and extremely personal.
Yeah.
You got kicked off your girlfriend's couch like the loser you are, and you're in the street. What
Yep.
you gonna do? You know, you got a tent, you got shelter, you got stuff. You know, it'll save your life. In any event, to be prepared. The old Boy Scout motto: "I have Scouting America." Let's get it
Oh
right.
yeah, they're not the
Um,
Boy Scouts anymore. No.
You know, I said, "What's the big deal?" I was like, "So your daughter wants to tie knots instead of sell cookies?"
Yeah, come on through. Teach her how to tie knots.
What? I don't want my son in there with the girls. Why? What's your son got against girls? Bet nothing.
Yeah,
So
probably not.
But so I you know,
I don't mind the inclusion.
Greg knows that I flip flop a lot. I'm practically schizophrenic, but
I'm practically schizophrenic.
gender roles in society, how important are they going to be when SHTF?
I mean, I think we're gonna see. That's a good question. I would say that we're gonna see things go back to the way they used to be. You're gonna see the physical limitations become real of women. You know, like nowadays, women can do a lot of what men can do simply because there's not a lot of manual labor involved. You know, it's a lot of like office work and driving a car to and from the office. Okay, you can do that. What happens when you got to dig, holes for fencing, and you got to put up a fence out in the heat? Do you want your wife doing that? No. What happens if you got to do an all night security patrol and you got to watch your perimeter all night? Do you want your wife doing that? No. What happens if you got to fight off a group of guys that try to take your house? They surround you and they try breaking in from different sides, and you got to fight them off. Some maybe close quarters. You get into a fist fight, or
You
you
ever
got to
met my
stab
wife?
these
I'm gonna be
guys.
hiding in the closet while she Jane Wicks their ass. You woke her up.
So
Sorry for what's about to happen. I was
so
gonna
yeah,
try to help y'all, but now
I agree with you, Greg. I think more traditional society, huh?
yeah, I think so in certain aspects. Yeah,
all
definitely.
right. Let me pose a playful hypothetical question. All right, you get Taylor Swift or Bruce Jenner, Caitlyn Jenner. All right, you gotta go.
Well, the question
You
is,
gotta go patrol the fire line. Are you taking Taylor Swift or are you taking Caitlyn Jenner?
that's a good question.
Caitlyn Jenner for me,
Yeah,
honestly. Yeah,
yeah,
track star, man. If they're running, I'm
that's
trying to
true.
keep up.
You don't think
Still,
you don't think Taylor Swift got that boom boom in her?
No, she's like this big around.
Can she fire a weapon?
She's like that big
I feel like
around,
she'd be
and
mad about it.
I think it would damage her emotionally to even handle it. I don't think she'd be able to do it. So yeah, I'm
Emotionally. I've been hurt
Bruce.
physically by shotguns, but he said emotionally, so
Bruce.
makes her stronger.
Yeah, yeah.
Bruce,
I'm with Bruce all the way.
Um, interesting. Now, in the course of the conversation, what was not brought into account was like I came up for my wife because like I've always been like, um, let her live her life. Like if I need to step in, which is rare, because like I said, you ever met her? Is you gonna do nothing? No, I ain't gonna say shit. Learn my lesson. I have two black eyes because she told me twice. What do the women think though? And I have observed the women prepper community to the best of my ability through our media and comments and stuff like this, and seen them at camp.
Extremely capable, extremely capable.
Right, and while they are always just straight up, women are better than men in a lot of things, and I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. And if I just did, well, I'm talking to you then.
Different strokes for different folks, man.
Women, given the same training, you run men and women through the same training regimen. Statistically, the women will come out better. They focus. They don't let emotion get in the way. They're cold. They're tactile. They are machines about what they train to do. Men go and be heroes and do that thing.
right.
Soviet snipers in World War II, for example.
Right. Well, it all comes down to hormones, basically. I mean, we have a lot of testosterone, which drives us to want to fight everybody else and claim our own territory. And women, they have, estrogen, and they're basically able to, they don't have all the same triggers that we as men have. Like we're kind of more focused on, food, and how are we going to provide food? How are we going to reproduce? We're very like, oriented on the basics, of just surviving and stuff, and our instincts guide us, and our hormones. And women are kind of, they're totally different. They don't have that. So for them, they're able to think more clearly in certain situations, whereas a dude is not going to think clearly. Like, for example, if some guy punches you in the face on the street, immediately you're going to want to, snap and punch that guy even harder, right? That's just a
Yep.
normal reaction. Women, they may not do that. They may say, well, okay, they hit me, but what am I going to gain by hitting them back? I'll just go on my business, whatever. So they're able to kind of strategize in certain scenarios. I think we could see women rise to the occasion of like strategic and tactical planning, even
Absolutely.
because they're able to plan things a little better than men are, because they don't have that same hormonal, emotional response. Like Livingston man was saying, they can think more clearly and objectively about a situation, and they're very patient and stuff like that. So I think we might see something like that in SHTF, you know, planning out missions and stuff.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's actually something that I wanted to start getting more into is some sort of a ladies group for the local preppers here in the Hudson Valley.
The old Girl Scouts. They can
I
go
think,
sell freeze
well,
dried
no,
food.
not even so much that. Just as a bonding thing. You know, there's a lot of ladies in the Facebook group who they chat often when they see each other, and you know, due to the hornet's nest and everything, we haven't had an event in a while. So I thought maybe it'd be nice to just, you know, have, maybe they could do a small hike or something, just like a meet and greet, just to catch up with each other again.
That's a cool
Um,
idea.
yeah, yeah, and I think we should do the same thing for some of the guys. You know, just small little meetups, just to shake hands and say hello. It's fantastic community we have here. So
I had always like mulled over like the idea that the sort of structure would be. I hate this. I can't even use that term. We're not always together.
no,
Like at the end of the day, like yeah, we're like are all familiars and you know
yeah,
live and
absolutely,
coexist together.
absolutely.
But that like it was almost like two even factions is the wrong word, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
At the
yeah.
end
I
of the
mean,
day,
everybody's their own little individual group themselves, and then
actually,
your immediate community, and then your group outside of that. I think it's a great mentality.
I always wanted to do when we all the way back when we played paintball and airsoft. I always thought it'd be the coolest thing in the world if like our like girlfriends and girls and their wives and women's all had like a team of their own, like
Yeah,
come out and show everybody up. And I think that you'd be surprised by their prowess in
Right.
typically male-oriented activities.
oh
It's just that
yeah,
they really haven't been given the opportunity to even try them.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
It's
You're
true.
telling me my wife can't split
I
wood. I don't know. I mean,
I
I
think
ain't never given her the opportunity to do it.
I think
Right. It's
I
true.
think you're right, and I think they would come out with kind of a chip on their shoulder.
Whether
So
she wants to
you
split
better
wood.
look out when they start coming for you.
Nobody splits wood because they want to. Let's go right
They've
there.
been waiting for this for a long time,
A
and here
return to
comes
it.
your ass whooping.
There's Greg, you got to feel me. I use weasel words a lot because I know what I'm talking about, but it's simply I don't know who said it or you know. But there was a matriarchal society, and I believe it was one of the First Nations of America here.
Mhm.
Matriarchal society. The women ran everything because they said you can't give a man power; he'll abuse it.
Mm.
How true do you suppose those words are?
Um, I mean, it's pretty true. You
Yeah,
know,
we tend to break things, right? I mean, we break things. We, like you said, we
Gotta jump that dirt bike,
that
bro.
testosterone. It's fight or flight.
right.
They want we want a statue carved of us. We want our names remembered. It's like he drove a dirt bike off the Grand Canyon. So yeah, we remember his name, but that shit was stupid. That's men. I try to explain to women the best that I can because I'm an idiot, as I'm about to tell you. Men are dumb, all right? And what I mean by that is we don't put like extra levels of logic into things. We're like, thing sucks, hate thing, never do thing.
Sure.
Women can sift through all the gray areas, make an honest, actual logic deduction. Men just mad dumb.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and, well, I think that, like, and in terms of relationships, let's go here real quick. Is that women stop giving your man mad credit? We're dumb as fuck. We're dumb as fuck. You should. What did I do? You should know. I do not know.
No, honey,
I
could
never
you write
knew.
that down for me,
I
please?
never once knew. I know nothing except what you say. All right. Don't be like, oh, you should know better. Because none of us does.
No.
We're dumb creatures, and we honestly need y'all to steer us in the right direction. You ever seen a man? Look at men without wives. Men without a strong significant other. They'd be out here wilding, stupid, acting the fool. Get a
Yep.
lady to deal. You just calm your ass down and become a normal, civilized person, and all of a sudden it's different.
That's right.
Without that in your life, without that in your society, you're just a gang of rabid velociraptors fucking killing each
In
other.
the society, you're correct. The mothering, the nurturing.
The temperance.
Yes.
Calm
Yes.
the fuck down.
Yes.
You need her to sometimes you need to get back in it and she tells you you're stressing me out and you shut right the fuck up.
Yeah, that's it. I'm done.
The queen has
Well,
spoken.
speaking of being done, Greg, we can't keep you all night, man. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Yeah, no problem.
Fantastic conversation, brother. Thank you.
Thanks
Quick
for
last
having
question.
me.
Okay,
Always
favorite
fun.
government society, would you do monarchy, authoritarianism, or absolute democracy? We're talking Greece stuff here.
That's a good question. Yeah, it's kind of tough. I mean, at times I feel like I wish I was the king for a little while, just so I could fix certain things and then disappear, you know.
Let's get that Calvin
Like let
Coolidge mentality.
Yep. Yep. That's the way to be, man. That's the way to be.
I didn't want this job, but I guess I'll do it. Get me out of here. That's the way to be. All right, I like your answer.
But folks, please go check out NYPrepper if you don't already. You probably do, but if you don't, you go check out NYPrepper. Check out NYPrepper.com. My good buddy Greg. That's right. That's right. NewYorkPrepper.com. NYPrepper on the YouTube. He's everywhere. He's everywhere. You will find him. You will find him. He's there. And accept no substitutes. This is the only
See him right there?
NYPrepper. This is the one.
That's
the
the guy.
one, the only, the NYPrepper. Thank you so much for being with us tonight, brother. We really, really appreciate it. Stay safe, my friend. Looking forward to seeing you soon. We got to get out and do something together.
Yeah, we got to do something. I agree. Yeah, hopefully you'll be doing some bug out weekends and stuff soon. So
yes, sir. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. I'm
Much
ready.
more scenic locations, bigger, better, more epic, everything.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it big.
yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate
No problem,
you,
man.
Absolutely.
Really appreciate you being here. Have a great night, everybody. Stay safe. Hudson Valley Prepping Survival, and we're out of here.